I'm so happy to see you. Today we are reading chapter 4 together of The Lemonade War. We left off yesterday in a kind of an unusual spot. Evan had found out that his sister Jessie had started a lemonade stand on her own and had asked for the help of, I forget her name, I think Megan Moriarty. And for some reason, Evan and Megan are kind of tied together in some way or another. I don't know if they used to be friends or maybe they still are friends, but we know Megan is a fourth grader and Jessie is technically a second grader, but she's going into fourth grade. She's skipping a grade. And so Evan found out and he felt a little disheartened or a little betrayed that his sister would do that to him. And at the very end of that chapter, it mentioned how Megan was laughing at him. And we aren't sure why. And I know you took some predictions on that with our Google form yesterday. And so let's find out how those predictions span out. Chapter 4, Partnership. Here is our definition for partnership. Partnership. Two or more people pooling their money, skills, and resources to run a business, agreeing to share the profits and losses of that business. Jessie had been waiting for this moment, the moment when Evan would see their lemonade stand, see the wonderful decorations they had made, see the crowds of people waiting in line, see Megan Moriarty standing by her side. He would see it all and be so impressed. He would think to himself, wow, Jessie is one cool kid. She sure knows how to run a lemonade stand right. And then he'd jog over to her and say, hey, can I help you out? And Jessie would say, sure. We're hoping you'd come over. Or we were hoping you'd come, and Jessie would say, sure, we were hoping you'd come over. Got cut off in the middle of the page there, but we got it. All right. And it would be just like old times. Why hadn't it worked out like that? With one part of her brain, Jessie continued to take money from customers and make change. That was part of her brain, and that worked just fine. With the other part of her brain, Jessie went over what happened with Evan. That was the part of her brain that tended to run circles. Does anybody else feel like that? Maybe you feel really good and confident with math, but when it comes to people's feelings, you're not quite sure maybe how to react or maybe what you're supposed to say. I know that happens with me all the time. It is something that I struggle with a lot. Sometimes I don't always connect with other people's feelings right away. Sometimes it takes me a little extra thinking, but that's okay. Forgot where I was. She and Megan were selling lemonade. Business had been good. Then Mrs. Polly, a neighborhood mom, walked up. She had a bunch of kids in her backyard running through the sprinkler, and now they wanted 12 cups of lemonade. 12! It was the biggest sale of that day. Megan got cracking, pouring the lemonade, and Jessie took all 6 singles, and Mrs. Polly handed her. All the kids from Mrs. Polly's backyard were chanting, lemonade, lemonade, lemonade. A fly buzzed by Jessie's ears. They had been having a problem with flies because of the sticky lemonade spills on their stand. She tried to swat at it, but her hands were too busy with the money. And that's when Jessie looked up and saw Evan standing there, staring. So she smiled, but he didn't smile back. So she waved, even though she had all that money in both hands. She waved so she knew how happy she was to see him. And then he stalked off, all stiff-legged and bristly, and she never got the chance to say, sure, we were hoping you'd come over, like she'd rehearsed in her head. So let's pause for a minute because this is actually really, it's kind of interesting that we're reading this. In our last chapter, let me flip back to it because when Evan had saw Jessie in the lemonade stand, Evan couldn't believe it. She sneered at him. She cocked her head to the side and gave him this little, I'm so much better than you smile. So that's how Evan interpreted Jessie's smile, when in fact she was trying to smile to say hello, and she waved her hand to wave, but Evan thought she was bragging about all the money they'd made. So there's two sides to one coin here, as the saying goes. And just then, Tommy Polly, who was just 2 years old, pulled down the tablecloth that was on their lemonade stand, and a few cups had spilled right on him. Megan was laughing so loud, Jessie was sure you could hear it all over the neighborhood. There he was, Tommy Polly, standing there, just 2 years old, with lemonade all over his hair. That would be sticky. So sticky. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. But Jessie knew something else entirely had happened, and she hadn't gotten it. The way that she didn't get a lot of things about people. All she knew was that the sight of Evan walking away from her for the second time that day, made her feel so sad and alone that she just wanted to run home and curl up on her bed with Charlotte's Web. "Hey, Madam Cashier, register," said Megan, nudging her. "You're falling behind. Ring 3 for this lady and 1 for this kid here." Jessie turned away from the retreating figure of Evan. "That's $1.50," she said to the woman standing in front of her. She took the $5 bill the woman was holding out and made change for her from the lockbox, focusing all of her energy on part of her brain that worked just fine. It's true that when Evan had first walked out of the garage, Jessie had banged up to her room and tried to think of every way possible that she could make his life a living misery. She thought of telling Mom that Evan was the one who broke the toaster by playing hockey in the house, which he is not allowed to do. She thought of taking back every one of her CDs from his room, even though she knew that would mean she'd have to give back all of his CDs. And she'd even thought of putting peanut butter in his shoes. This was something that she'd read in a book, and she'd love to imagine the moment of horror when he'd think he'd gotten some dog dew inside his shoes. But when all these ideas had finished bouncing around her brain, and when her breathing had returned to normal and her fists weren't clenched at her sides anymore, she knew that she was really just wanting to get the old Evan back, the one who was so much fun to be around, and the one who helped her out every jam. Like when she ate all the Lorna Doones that Mom had set aside for the Girl Scout meeting, and Evan had been riding his bike to the 7-Eleven and bought a new package before Mom even noticed. Or when she not accidentally, but now how was she supposed to know? Picked the red flowers in Grandma's garden that were a hybrid experiment. Evan said that they'd both done it so Grandma would spread out the disappointment. Or that time that Jessie smashed the ceramic heart that Dad had given her because she was so mad that he had left them. And then, when she had cried about her broken heart, Evan had glued every single piece back together again. She wanted to get back to the Evan who was her best friend, but Evan didn't want her because he thought he was a baby, or she was a baby, and she was going to embarrass him in Mrs. Overton's class. So she had to prove to him that she was a big kid, that she could keep up with the crowd, that she could fit in, even with his 4th-grade class. "I'll show him I can sell lemonade too, just as good as him and Scott. I won't embarrass him." So Jessie got down to business. She knew she needed to find a partner. From last experience, she'd learned that having a lemonade stand alone was not considered cool. It was considered pathetic. And her partner would have to be a 4th-grade girl, because that's what this is all about, showing that she can fit in with the 4th-graders. So the question was, who? It had to be a girl who lived in the neighborhood, or at least close enough to bike to her house, and it had to be someone that Jessie talked to at least once. No way could she call up a girl she'd never talked to and it had to be someone who was nice. And the last part was a problem because Jessie knew that she often thought people were nice when they turned out to not be nice. Case in point, those 2nd-grade girls. So Jessie decided to choose someone who Evan thought was nice. Evan knew about these things. He was the one who explained them, with his big arm around her shoulder. "Jessie, those girls are making fun of you. That is not nice." When Jessie thought about all the different requirements, there was only one obvious answer: Megan Moriarty. She lived less than 3 blocks down the street. Jessie said hi to her a few times while biking in the neighborhood, and Evan must have thought she was nice because Jessie had found a piece of paper in the trash can with Megan's name written all over it. Why would he cover a page with her name on it if she didn't think he was a nice person? Jessie went to the kitchen and climbed onto the stool so that she could reach the cabinet over the stove. She took down the school phone book and looked through the listings for both last year's third grade classes. No Megan Rardy. Duh, thought Jessie. She remembered she moved halfway through the school year. With a sinking heart, Jessie checked the town phone book. No Moriarty family listed. Okay, she said, slapping the phone book shut and putting it back in the cabinet over the stove. Time for Plan B. Jessie went to the hall closet and got her backpack, which had been hanging there empty since the last day of school. She'd put 3 cans of frozen lemonade from the freezer in her lockbox full of change. She put $10 bills she still paper clipped from last year's birthday card from her grandmother in the top desk drawer. Then she went to the garage, strapped on her helmet, and rode off on her bike. As she left the driveway, she could see Evan and Scott's lemonade stand on the corner. But she was careful not to make eye contact. She didn't want to talk to Evan until she was ready to do, ta-da, impress him. Her heart leapt when she imagined him ditching Scott to be with her. Megan's house was so close that Jessie got there in less than 30 seconds. And less than 30 seconds wasn't nearly long enough to plan what she was going to say. So she rode back and forth in front of the house for about 15 times, trying to pick the right words. "What are you doing?" a voice shouted from the upstairs window. Jessie slammed on her foot brakes and looked up. Megan was staring down at her. She looked huge. Her voice did not sound nice. "Riding my bike," said Jessie. "But why are you riding back and forth?" Megan said impatiently. "In front of my house." "I don't know," said Jessie. "You want to play?" "Who are you?" said Megan. "Jessie," said Jessie, pointing down the street to her house. "Evan's little sister," asked Megan. "Evan's little sister?" asked Megan. Jessie felt like a deflated balloon. "Yeah." "Oh," said Megan. "I couldn't tell 'cause of the helmet." Jessie took off her helmet. "So you wanna?" There was a long pause. "Where's Evan?" "He's out somewhere with a friend," said Jessie. "Oh," said Megan. Jessie looked down at the ground. "People tell you things," Evan had once told her, "with their hands in their faces and the way they stand. It's not just what they say. You gotta pay attention, Jess. You gotta watch for the things they're saying, not their words." Jessie looked back up. It was hard to see Megan at all. She was so far up behind the window screen. Jessie sucked in her breath. "Do you want to do something?" Another long pause. Jessie started counting in her head. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and so on. "Sure," said Megan. Then her head disappeared. A minute later, Megan was at the front door. "Hey," she said, opening the screen. Jessie raised her hand in something that was halfway between a wave and a salute. As she walked in, her sweaty bangs stuck to her forehead, where the helmet had mashed them down. She was so nervous about saying something stupid, she didn't say anything at all. Megan leaned against the banister of the stairs and crossed her arms. "So," said Jessie. She stared at Megan, who was fiddling with 7 or 8 bracelets on her arm. Jessie counted 2 Live Strongs, 1 Red World Sox champs, 1 March of Dimes, and 1 Race for the Cure. "What's that one?" she asked, pointing to the band of the bracelet with the tiger stripes. Megan stretched it off her wrist and gave it to Jessie. "It's for the Animal Rescue League. My mom gave them some money, so they gave us this. And a bumper sticker. I've got 22 band bracelets." "Cool," said Jessie, handing the bracelet back. Megan flipped it back on. She continued to play with the bracelets on her arm, running them up and down, up and down. "So what do you want to do?" said Megan. "I don't know," said Jessie. Let me think. We could have a lemonade stand." Said Megan, sounding bored. "Oh, come on, it'll be fun." "We don't have any lemonade," said Megan. "I've got 3 cans. She slipped the backpack off and dumped 3 cans of frozen lemonade out. Her lockbox came rattling out too. "What's that?" said Megan. "My lockbox. We can use it to make change." She felt her face going red. Maybe 4th graders weren't supposed to have lockboxes. "How much money have you got?" said Megan. "You mean in change or all together?" Megan pointed at the lockbox. "How much is in there?" $4.42. 14 quarters, 5 dimes, 3 nickels, 27 pennies. Jessie didn't say anything about the $10 she'd left at home. Both of Megan's eyebrows shot up. "Exactly?" What do those eyebrows mean? Wondered Jessie in panic. Why was Megan smiling at her? Jessie, those girls are making fun of you. They are not nice. Jessie didn't say anything. She had a sick feeling in her stomach that this was going to turn out badly. Megan straightened up. Wow, you are rich, she said. Want to go to 7-Eleven? We could get Slurpees. But Jess pointed to the cans of lemonade on the carpet hallway floor. The frost on them was already starting to sweat off. We could do the lemonade stand later, said Megan. Maybe. Jessie thought of Scott and Evan racking up sales 2 blocks down. How was she going to prove to herself and to Evan that she could get Megan if she couldn't even get Megan to have a stand? How about the lemonade stuff first, said Jessie, and then serve Slurpees with our earnings. I bet we'd even have enough for chips and gum. You think? Said Megan. I know, said Jessie. Look, we can, it says on the can right here, yields 64 ounces. So we get 8 cups each and can sell. So we get 8 cups from each can and sell each cup for $1.50, and that's $4. And right there, there's 3 cans, so $12 altogether, right? The numbers flashed in Jessie's brain so fast she didn't even need to think about what she was multiplying and dividing and adding. It just made sense to her. Hey, how old are you? Said Megan, looking at her side. 8, said Jessie, but I'll be 9 next month. Megan shook her head. Math does not sound right. No way can we make $12 from just 3 little cans. Yeah, said Jessie. I'll show you. Do you have a piece of paper? Jessie started to draw pictures, and she knew that the other kids would see numbers the way she did. They needed pictures to make sense of math. Look, she said, here's 3 pitchers of lemonade, because we got 3 cans, and each picture has 64 ounces on it. Now, when we pour the cup of lemonade, we'll pour 8 ounces, because that's how much a cup holds. You don't want to pour less than that, or people will say you're being a cheapskate. So each pitcher is going to give us 8 cups, because 8 times 8 is 64, right? Oh, I forgot. There. Okay. And then we have another picture. Now, we'll sell each cup for 50 cents, and that's a fair price. That means that every time we sell 2 cups, we make $1. Because 50 cents plus 50 cents equals $1. So look, I'll circle the 2 cups by 2s, and that's how many dollars we get. Count them. Megan counted and counted, and she got 10, 11, 12. That's how much money we'll make, said Jessie, if we sell all the lemonade, and if we do this lemonade stand. Wow, said Megan, you're really good at math. She puffed her cheeks like a bullfrog and thought for a minute. Then she popped both cheeks with her hands and said, whatever, let's do this lemonade thing. Jessie felt soaked in relief. Maybe this was going to work after all. An hour later, Jessie and Megan had transformed a little wooden puppet theater in Megan's basement into the hottest new lemonade stand on the block. The stand was decorated with tissue papers, cut-out butterflies, and glittery hearts. And boy, did people notice. So when Mrs. Polly asked for 12 cups at the exact moment Evan rounded that curve and saw her lemonade stand, Jessie felt like she'd just scored 100 on a test and gotten 5 points for extra credit. So why did Evan stomp off? And how come she didn't feel like she'd won anything at all? The end. All right. Join me tomorrow for Chapter 5. There's no response for today. Just enjoy the read aloud, and actually I won't see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, and it's a half day. I will see you Monday for Chapter 5.